Hello and welcome to the Podghast. It's been a while, but Calum and I recently went to see a little film, Calum, called Alien Romulus.
Alien Romulus.
Yes, and we were so caught by this movie that we thought we should talk about it.
Yeah.
And give our opinions, because that's really what the internet needs, is two more people giving their
Wading in on
opinions.
this, yeah, because nobody else has seen it, right? Or given it. But it's amazing. It is divisive, as you said. But I mean, I did my most endearing memory of it leaving is you saying that's the funniest film I've seen this year. For the wrong reasons.
There was a point in Alien Romulus where, and Calum will testify, in fact, both of us were trying not to laugh out loud because you don't want to ruin anyone else's experience of watching the movie. But like a little child, I was shaking. I was actually shaking because I was laughing so much at something in the movie, and we'll get to that. Here's the thing, Calum, you and I are both, I would say we're both big fans of the Alien franchise, certainly Alien and
First
Aliens.
3. There's a lot to be said for Aliens. Alien 3. Especially the assembly cut. There's good stuff in it. Sorry, we had a slight malfunction there with our very own synth or artificial person, Michael.
So I can certainly say for myself that growing up in the 80s and 90s, Alien was absolutely one of my favourite franchises of all time. So the fact that there was a new movie coming out, that's something that I would generally be interested in anyway. I think my interest in the Alien franchise, as much as I love it, had waned because of Prometheus and Alien Covenant. I just didn't really think that they were very good. There's some good things momentarily in those movies, but as a complete package, I was really dismayed at what Ridley Scott did by going back and trying to fill in the lore about how the alien came to be, because I think the mystery is more important. But in any case, I also like, I think it's Fede Alvarez, isn't it? I think that's how you pronounce his name. I'm sorry if I'm butchering it. He was directing Alien Romulus, and it very much had been put forward as being like a kind of balls to the wall horror movie, going back to the kind of visceral stuff.
Just to quickly interject, this is off the back of him doing the new Evil Dead as well, isn't it? I haven't seen it, but
he did Evil Dead about, I think that was about 2013 or something like that.
And, did he do that one? He didn't do the one that was in a lift.
No.
All right, okay. I've not seen that either.
No, I've not seen that. I haven't watched the one that Fede Alvarez directed for a while, but I remember enjoying it and being quite surprised by it.
Was it not some kind of drug addiction parallels or something? Yeah.
It involves. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I think the whole setup of the reason that they're at the cabin is that they're going to kind of detox someone from their drugs. But and there's also a weird thing at the end of that movie where they that Evil Dead film is really serious and brutal, and yet after the credits, I don't know if you've ever seen this, Calum.
I've seen the clip of Bruce Campbell just going groovy
at the end of it.
Yeah.
It makes absolutely no sense. It's kind of like hinting that maybe they would do another one and Ash would come back, but then I think they went on and did the TV show after that.
Speaking of which, we've had enough of Ash coming back, but
yeah, but yeah, that's true.
We'll get back to that.
So I really liked that version of Evil Dead, as brutal and as kind of downbeat as it was compared to the others. I think it was a well-made film, and it was clear that Alvarez has a really a great sense of doing visceral horror. He also made a movie called Don't Breathe, which is pretty good as well. And
and there's a couple of them, isn't there?
Yeah, I know there's a new one. Don't Breathe is
sorry, just 2 seconds. A little gift for you and everyone else.
What is it?
Well, it's the kind of fake Guinness. but it still does the
I
same.
can't see you. That's the thing.
All
I
right,
can't see you
do
now,
you not hear
Calum.
that? Did you not hear that? The kind of pop.
I heard a pop. It
Pop
could have been
for
some
this.
sort of
Sorry about
malfunction.
that. Anyway, carry on.
So I can see why. Have you watched Don't Breathe?
Nope. I've seen clips of it though.
Yeah.
It's like the blind guy, and he's like,
yeah, it's about a couple of housebreakers who break into a house, funnily enough, and they try to rob or burglarize a blind man, and it turns out the blind man is this
guy from Avatar.
Ripped 65-year-old who is like he's a veteran, and he's also a very twisted individual, but he basically locks them in his house and then terrorizes them. But anyway, that movie's got some like good stuff on it. It's got some kind of like really strange stuff in it as well. But I can understand why Ridley Scott, whose company Scott Free produced this, I can understand why he thought that Fede Alvarez might be a good fit for it, because Don't Breathe is very much like Alien, is very much a kind of stalker in the old house, in the old dark house type of story. And I can see why that would have worked. But
it's a good thing Ridley Scott left him to do it on his own and didn't in any way intervene and stir the pot in the way that he so often likes to do.
Yeah, the stuff the stuff that connects it to some of the things that Ridley Scott was doing with Prometheus and Alien Covenant, and it does feel like it's kind of like deliberately kind of like just pushed in there so that could legitimize, because I get the feeling that as much as Ridley Scott's company produced Alien Covenant, Alien, I'm forgetting the names now, Alien Romulus, I think that he was basically told, like, you're not going to get to do another one by Disney. When they bought over Fox, I think they were just like, like we want like a standard Alien movie.
I don't know where the fuck it was going. I don't know where it was going.
What do you mean?
Like after like Covenant and everything, I was just like, what is he doing? Fucking androids sitting about playing flutes.
Do you know the strangest thing about?
Because it ends, doesn't it? It ends with a big ship, and he's got all the that's like the proto face huggers or something, isn't it? He's got all the samples, and you're just like, what are you doing? This has got to tie into. I don't know. I mean,
I think there was meant to be a third movie, but the weird thing about Prometheus and Alien Covenant is that Alien Covenant doesn't, as much as it is a sequel to Prometheus, it doesn't really feel like one. It doesn't follow the protagonist from the end of Prometheus, and it really gives her character, well, I don't want to spoil it, but a pretty dark ending.
I think you can spoil it at this point. The film's been out for a long time.
But even Alien Covenant, I think, was a course correction, because I think it was like people were like, oh, Prometheus. Some people wouldn't have even known that was an Alien movie.
That though, the way that they took out, now, is it Naomi Rapace? Is that her name? I think the way they took her out almost felt like some kind of like scheduling or contract thing, or either that, or they just did a really shite job at writing it, which is quite likely as well, because they took her out with such lack of fanfare that you're almost just like, was she not available, or were they just like, I think what it was more likely was like Ridley Scott was sitting there going, I don't know. He's always got his cigar. I don't want to go too savile with it, right? But like, he must have just been sitting there going, I don't know how the fuck I factor her into this. So she's dead. David's turned her into a fucking egg.
It was kind of like,
which is kind of a weird callback to the deleted scenes from Alien.
From Alien, yeah. Like basically, you're kind of walking through the plot of Alien Covenant, and all of a sudden it's like, and here's also your protagonist from the previous movie in bits.
Yeah,
like here she is in absolute bits. I
watched some clips of it again recently.
Did we go to see that? I mean, we must have gone to see that.
Probably, yeah.
Because
I mean, like you say, you go if an Alien film comes out, you go to see it because they are a precious thing. Because there's only like 8 of them, and now there's Romulus, which is 9. if you include Aliens versus Predator, and there's 10 if you include Predator 2.
Yeah, I like Predator 2.
So, they're a very precious, rare thing. So, another one of them.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah, but anyway, so Alien Romulus seemed to be this kind of course correction. It was meant to be this kind of balls to the wall alien movie, visceral horror, and we're going to get into spoilers here, but it starts off where it follows two characters on a planet where the Weyland-Yutani company is basically not allowing miners to leave the planet that they're mining. And I thought that was an interesting idea. I don't know about you. I thought the start of it worked for me.
Do you know what it actually felt like to me? I mean, there was bits of it that were kind of a bit reminiscent of the setup in Aliens, but it actually felt more to me, and I know that supposedly it's like a connected universe, but it felt more like a kind of off-world colonies and Blade Runner type thing.
Yeah.
What you kind of imagined that some of the mining setups were like there, with that same level of, hence why they had the replicants and stuff down doing the mining, because the mortality rate was so bad.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think Ridley Scott's desperate for it all to be connected, to be honest.
Yeah.
So you could say it's all
there is a lot of shared
one big thing.
Design language.
And then obviously with the Aliens special edition, you've got Hyperdyne systems, as mentioned, in Aliens. So it also kind of unofficially
it's because I watched that clip today because Ash. Ash and Burke are talking. No, not Ash. Sorry, Bishop and Ash. Bishop and Burke are talking, and they're discussing Ash, and they're talking about how he's a Hyperdyne model, and they're like, "Oh, they're twitchy."
Yeah. So it starts off with I think the first 30 minutes or so.
But that could be James Cameron though.
Yeah.
Rather than Ridley Scott fucking about with that, but because that's Cyberdyne. But then anyway.
So I thought the first 30 minutes of the film was pretty good. It was something we hadn't really seen in the Alien franchise again. We hadn't really seen it before. I liked the two main characters. The setup being that you have this woman whose mother and father have been miners on this planet. They've died because of the job. She's been left there, but she also has this synthetic person, or this android who was, I think it's mentioned in the film that her father found in a junkyard, and because he's a bit slow.
He's not top really... he'll never be top of the line, to quote Bishop.
And so they're trying to get off this planet. Then they realise that that's not going to happen. And so with a kind of ragtag bunch of friends who they all seem to be I don't know, I would say teenagers or early 20s at the most. They're all pretty young, and this group decide that they're going to go up and liaise with this ship that they think is in orbit above the planet, and they think they're going to be able to essentially steal the cryogenic chambers from this ship, and then use that in their own ship, and then travel 9 years while they sleep in cryogenic suspension to freedom, basically,
to another civilization that's out with the Wei.
That's right.
The company.
Yeah. So I like the setup. It's different, it's not. To me, it's not a retread of what we've seen before. But what did you think about because there's a lot of practical effects in the movie, and
how quickly? I mean, let's see at this point. How quickly are we just going to get into spoilers? This is what I want to know, because I kind of want to start.
Give your short feeling on the movie before we go into spoilers.
I just my problem is, right, a lot of people, you've gone in, and originally I will give it, with a few plot elements aside, potential plot holes, it is an interesting setup, right? We go up, we come to this thing, they discover it's a space station, everything. Looking aside the fact that like nobody else is interested in it, nobody's worried about an unscheduled flight or anything like that, or them fucking off and stealing the ship or anything like that. The big question I have with it is, and I think the problem is there's a lot of people, one of the big things that people have been lauding it for is the production design. And part of me is like, now that more that I think about it, they've replicated it well and they've done a nice job of doing it. But part of me is like, I'm tempted not to give them a point for that because it's production design that already existed. Functional. There's nothing in that when you go through it, you're like, in terms of the way that they've done the design that's new. It's very much drawing on the established design work from Alien and Aliens.
I also heard that a lot of the sets are CG as well, but I'm not sure how much of it is. That's
it could be virtual production. They do a lot of stuff virtual production now, but I didn't necessarily get that idea from it. Potentially so essentially what virtual production is, and it's become very, very popular these days, is they basically erect these massive screens and they put the people in front of the screens and they put the camera on the other side and the camera sync to the screen, so when the camera moves, the image on the screen moves, and it allows them to, and it's really big in stuff like Mandalorian and stuff like that.
I was going to say it's like the volume they call it.
Yeah. They've got different names for it, but generally virtual production's the generic name for it. But that's allowed them to do these kind of big expansive spaces and environments, and the other advantage of it as well is it creates light, and that light in real time falls on the people that are in front of it. So I didn't necessarily get the vibe that there maybe was virtual production, but maybe because very quickly when you get onto the station it kind of comes back to that quite not as claustrophobic as Alien, I would say, but there's still a bit of a claustrophobic feel once you get onto the station. Not that the mining colony was like a paradise, but
I think I think certainly some of it was practical sets, but I'd heard that, and that some of it was some of the sets were digital. I don't know if that happened with reshoots.
There could be enhancements as well, just adding things on, because I mean certainly that wasn't a complaint that I had watching it, that I was like the environments felt false. It felt realistic from that element. That's not where I would criticize the effects anyway. And all the stuff coming up of them taking off and coming up to the station, everything, all that looked great. It's a good looking film. There's no two ways about it in terms of like the visual style of it. It's nice.
Do you not think that's what's kind of most frustrating about it? Because I mean, let's get into some spoilers then. Right?
Gloves on. Gloves fucking on.
Like for me, I've thought about that. I've thought about the film a lot more in the last few days after we went to see it, and I think maybe I don't dislike it quite as much as I did when I first came out of the cinema.
Okay,
but I still have massive problems with it, and I like it's bad when you roll your eyes in the cinema. It's bad when you do that at a film, and sometimes a film has so much goodwill.
In the cinema, no one can hear you roll your eyes.
Yeah, and so my biggest, well, I don't want to say it's my biggest complaint is. We know what the biggest complaint is, but we can get to that. One of the biggest complaints I had was completely for no reason at all, and I have to think that this was a studio decision. Don't see Alvarez making this decision, but in the movie there are lines from the other movies given to other characters. There are moments,
and it's not organic. It's not organic at all.
No, and there's moments where they're reenacting moments from the other movie, like the moment where the kind of I forget the names of the characters. That's terrible. But the kind of captain of the ship is showing our protagonist how to use how
Whoa, we got to split shit. Whoa.
how to use a pulse rifle.
Yeah.
And it's basically the scene from Aliens where Hicks is showing Ripley how to use
100%. Also,
but it's just like why
in universe as well. I don't understand. This is some kind of like proto to get into the kind of nitty gritty that probably barely anyone cared about. But from like a firearms perspective, like one of the big drivers for Aliens was the fact that like James Cameron was a massive gun nut, and he developed a lot of the kind of thinking behind the weapons that were in it. And there's been various kind of games and stuff like that have come out over the years, and they've done variations of the pulse rifle, but they've never really worked that well. There's actually, I went down to the Royal Firearms Museum and Artillery in Leeds, and they've got like an actual screen used pulse rifle there, including the constituent parts of it. It's really cool to see it in the flesh. But what I found really strange about it is the fact that like the magazine capacity of like a pulse rifle, like the M41A, a pulse rifle in Aliens is like a 99 round magazine, and it's usually always at 95 because they underload it to avoid jamming. That's like the inner universe thing. But he's shown this, which is kind of like a proto version of the pulse rifle, that also has, because it has very much a lot the same design language, it's just in white, which is the way you colours, which I think in Alien 3 they're using like repainted pulse rifles when the company troops turn up. But anyway, this is supposed to be like an earlier version of it in the same like weapon family, but it's got like a 450 round capacity because they need to have this huge big extended scene where she's shooting for ages. That also doesn't make any sense. But then it's also got this automated tracking thing, which you see later on in the smart guns to an extent. That's what the smart guns are supposed to have with the big harness and stuff. But
this is, I don't know how long before Aliens is this?
Well,
I mean, it's before
80 years between Alien and Aliens, and this is in between the two, right? So,
but I don't know how close it is to. But I mean,
I think this is meant to be 20 years.
Yeah,
I might be pulling this out my arse, but
details. I think... there's also like one of the biggest problems I have with it as well is that I can understand, right? If you look at Aliens is like one of the best movies ever made as far as I'm concerned, and it's one of the best sequels ever made. And people look at that movie and they're like, oh well, it expands the lore of the alien, the life cycle and all that. It adds things to the universe.
And this movie really fucking muddied the water.
But yeah, the thing that really bothered me afterwards when I was thinking about it was that they retrieve the alien that Ripley killed or ejected out of the shuttle,
which was
the Nostromo was
fucking
up,
well away from the Nostromo.
Right. That doesn't make sense. Yeah, it makes no sense at all because they retrieve it from the wreckage of the Nostromo around where the Nostromo is, and yet that happened like miles away from the Nostromo. But the biggest problem I have is that they seem to have established without talking about it, just visually showing you that the alien when it's in the vacuum, the coldness of space, that it can basically create a chrysalis around itself.
And we have seen it create that kind of, I almost kind of want to say it's like its own version of like terraforming in a way. It creates that, and we have seen them do it. What we don't know is where it creates it from, like, because like from a mass perspective, it doesn't really make sense. But
it's not necessarily the problem of adding that. That's the issue I have. The issue I have is that if the alien at the end of Alien can do it, then also the Queen was ejected from out of
very true. So where the fuck's that?
Aliens. So you have basically a situation where both of Ripley's triumphs are kind of taken away. Yeah, because she never actually killed them.
Though she did kill a few people down that hive. In fairness, a few of those were absolutely fucking popped.
She did take some names, that's right. But that was just another. the problem I have with this approach is that for some reason with film franchises, production companies and film companies don't want to move beyond what's already known, and it's they always have to do things that tinker with the movies that already happened, and it's like, no, let them be.
Yeah.
If you want to build, like Aliens again is a perfect example. There is not one piece of that film I can think of that makes you reinterpret Alien in any way. Maybe you could say, oh, I wonder where the Queen was.
Yeah.
Like, there must have been a Queen on that ship at some point, that down on LV-426. But it's like, there's nothing that makes you that affects your enjoyment of Alien or affects how you perceive events. But people keep making sequels, and they're like, they want to change things, and they want to put their own stamp on it, where it alters what the writers and the directors of previous movies have already done, and that drives me mad. It's like, you can tell stories without putting in events that are going to
The difficulty
change what happened.
Is Alien 3 the start of that?
What do you mean?
Well, you can tell that because, like, there's a lot of people that argue that the end of Aliens is the neat bow and Ripley story, right? So Alien, she goes through everything. She goes from where she is at the start, at the end, she triumphs, she kills the alien, she comes back in Aliens. She's lost her
daughter, and she gets her family.
But she regains her family, through Aliens. So, I mean, in some ways, although she's still certainly made a good account of herself in Alien, she goes a level beyond in terms of she gets some level of I don't think she's not a character that's motivated by revenge. She certainly has her fucking issues with him, but she's on a much more level playing field in Aliens than she is in Alien. But by the end of Aliens, she's got out of it. She's found Newt. They make a point of having the whole thing of her calling her mum.
Exactly.
And then the closing shot is the two of them together in the hypersleep, and I think a lot of people feel that that's a very.
You also have like Hicks is kind of implied that he might become some sort of surrogate father.
Yeah.
And maybe the partner.
A little bit of action for Ripley as well.
She's
got needs. Everyone's got needs.
Yeah, exactly. And Bishop is the kind of uncle. That. Like it kind of almost feels that way. And
I mean, he's fucked though, mate.
Then Alien 3 just.
He's in bed.
Yeah, it's there's Uncle Bishop
walking about in his hands. Did anyone find my legs?
But yeah, and then Alien 3.
I think a lot of people feel that Alien 3 is like mean spirited, but I think.
It is. I like Alien 3, but it's totally mean-spirited.
But it's difficult too, though, because obviously there was a really troubled production history with Alien 3. Like, there's no two ways about it. And it's changed a lot, and potentially also people as well, they're like, oh, if you just let David Fincher do this. But was it an attempt to actually just reset it back to basically return the ground back to Alien? Do you know what I mean? So you remove Hicks, you remove Newt, it's just Ripley again, no weapons or anything. It's kind of an attempt to return more to Alien.
Yeah. I suppose that could be. I think the main thing was that Sigourney Weaver, I think when she came back, she said, I'll do Alien 3, but only if my character's killed off.
Mm-hmm.
And she also, and I think with David Fincher is that the stuff that is him is all of the totally apocalyptic themes, and the fact that Alien 3, there is a part of me that likes to think that the end of Aliens is it's a beautiful ending, and I know that there were people. I know that Neil Blomquist was going to make a bit like a sequel that disregarded Alien 3
and 4,
and would have given us Ripley and Hicks back and all that, which I would like, I don't know, at the time when that was suggested, and I saw the artwork and all that for the production artwork, like, I was all for it. But now, like, so many of my favorite franchises have just been crapped on that
It's
I've lost
difficult though
hope.
with him though, because see, District 9 was obviously great, and I think he's ended up with a lot of
Soup after that.
yeah, but like he's a very good concept artist. So
Aye.
he's very good at coming up with concepts, and he had that period where he basically put out like a bunch of short films, and they're worth checking out, especially the one that's kind of like in Vietnam.
Aye.
But they're
I've not seen
essentially,
them.
he basically created these short films with the idea of being like, if you guys like them enough, we'll turn one of these into feature. But he's very good at those kind, and he did one of the other big things that he got famous for as well was doing like a kind of micro Halo film. Um,
Mm.
but that was like, I think he's very much good at those kind of concept things, and a lot of the time he actually struggles to deliver that into like a bigger project. But
Yeah.
the vibe I got from the kind of concept art that's in that was, it was a kind of like rebelling against Wayland Yutani type thing.
Mm.
But anyway, we should probably talk about Alien Romulus.
No, I know, but this is the problem. When you have a new entry in an established franchise, if you muddy the water, then it starts affecting other movies and it starts affecting the other stories that other people have told. And like you say, you know, one of the big things as well was that not only did they add this new property of like the alien being able to essentially create a cocoon around itself in space, and maybe kind of taking away Ripley's victories a little bit. Um, you also, I've lost my train of thought, Calum. Hold on, it's coming back. Listen, listen. Can you hear it? Can you hear it? It's come back. They also completely messed with the alien life cycle, and now it's so
Condensed.
well, that's a problem. You can talk about that in a second, but I was thinking more about the fact that, you know, there's like a cocoon on the wall at one point, and one of the xenomorphs kind of emerges from it,
Mm,
and it's like a big, and it's deliberately made to be like a big vagina.
yeah.
That's what it's like.
But I mean, let's be honest,
And
H.R. Geiger is like,
he was into all of that. He enjoyed all of that.
can't get enough
He
of it.
enjoyed himself. He enjoyed himself. But but like it kind of added, has it added other things to the life cycle in a way? I suppose so. But in a very indistinct way. The only thing that I thought afterwards was that, so they link the fingerprints of Ridley Scott being on the film, where all of a sudden it's like, actually we
It's not even
created all of these.
fingerprints, mate. He's done.
Wait,
He's just. It's like Society. He's gone
aye.
in and just put his fingers right into Fediel through his eyes.
Because they essentially have a character, which I'm going to let you go with that, introduce that problem in a moment, but that talks about it's essentially that they were able to distill a molecule or the most basic or primeval version of life from the genetics of the xenomorph, and it's like, this thing, you can inject it into people and it will create a new species
Now, I
essentially.
could be wrong, but my understanding when I was watching it was like there was different vials, and all the different vials could do different things. But I could be
I,
wrong.
d- I don't know. I missed
I
that,
thought when
but
he was explaining it, he was saying that they could do the different vials could do different things, but I could be wrong.
but I think the whole point was that they basically called it something like the Prometheus liquid or something like
Yeah.
that. So basically, and he even mentions, he says, this is what Guy Pearce's character from Prometheus was like. He
Yeah.
doesn't say that. He doesn't say this is what Guy Pearce's character was looking for all along
Big
from
Jimmy Wayland.
Prometheus. But that liquid is then, I think, how they've created all the different aliens. So if that's so, then maybe you could justify the point that you were bringing up about the condensed life cycle, but I'll let you talk about that.
You mean that they've re-engineered them to have, but there was no mention of that in it. I think
no, I know that, but
it's just
I'm being generous.
Yeah, no, it's true. I'm playing devil's advocate, but it's, as far as I'm concerned, I think it's just lazy writing. It's bad writing because if you look, I mean, the thing is, I think the difficulty is it's up against Alien and Aliens, and both of them are two very differently paced movies, but they're both perfectly paced for what they are.
Amazing,
right?
Amazing.
Especially Alien, right? And Alien, you know, you go through a whole thing. You have the face hugger. It's a very drawn out thing. You know, they're kind of trying to work out what the deal with the face hugger is. They're trying to get it off. They cut the leg. You know, the acid goes down. They're running about. They ruin a pencil. You know, and then all of a sudden,
it's always bothered me slightly.
And gives it back as well, that kid.
It always bothered me slightly that in Alien. It's like, really, the pencil looks alright.
I know, it's kind of just smouldering a bit. But so basically they've got that scenario where they go through that, and then they're kind of sitting about working out what they're going to do, and then all of a sudden Ash is like, oh, by the way, he's up, you better come and have a look at this. And then they come and they check it, and all of a sudden he's up, and then they agree, we'll have one
John
last
Hurt's character.
John Hurt, Kane, they're like, we'll have one last breakfast before we go into the cryopods, and then during that's when you have it. But that's a very drawn out affair between the facehugger that happened down on the planet to the creature gestating to the creature then being born. The first one that we see as a result of the facehugger happens within a matter of like 5 minutes.
Aye.
For a plot convenience. So that the ship can crash, but the ship also crashes in a way that it blows up part of the station, but also then manages to crash into the hangar bay.
Aye. Convenient, that.
In a state that's then able to take off again.
Yeah. I thought, like, so there's all it's absolutely true that if you think about previous situations where people have had like face huggers on them, like it seems to be that it's like a 12-hour process or something like that, you know, like.
I mean, let's be honest, it's implanting it, and then it's got to gestate inside you to a point that it can then go out, and then it goes through all its different life cycles. Even after it was born in Alien, it took a while running about that they find the skin for it, and it's grown into like its juvenile state or whatever, which at this point is still very dangerous. But for the sake of convenience, I mean, particularly at the end of the movie, not wanting to jump ahead, the life cycle of that final thing, which there's a lot of people out there been like, oh, that's nightmare fuel and everything. It wasn't that good. But for it to go from the point where it was like inside her to coming out to then immediately become this fucking 10-foot tall creature in the space of like 2 minutes, you're just like, what the fuck?
That had to be Ridley Scott as well, because it had the engineers from Prometheus. It had his face.
Yeah, I know.
The other thing as well is that, like, yeah, it reminded me a bit of kind of like so yeah. There's the kind of conclusion, the kind of fourth act they do. You know, you think they've got out, and then they do the kind of fourth act that you get in both Alien and Aliens, where, you know, not so fast. There's like a hybrid alien that ends up bursting out of because one of the characters is pregnant and she injected herself with the Prometheus liquid, and then that's affected the baby, and the baby's born in a rather brutal way, and then it goes from being about, you know, half a foot in size to being like 11 feet tall in about 10 minutes.
If that's been generous, a couple of minutes screen time.
And do you know what was really strange about that as well? There are things in that movie, like we've said about the callbacks, but it feels like they were literally trying to retread things from the first 4 movies, and it really surprised me
from Resurrections,
because at the end of Alien Resurrection, the 4th movie in the Alien franchise, there is essentially, after scientists have been genetically splicing human and alien DNA, that you get this this hybrid alien that is like partly human and
so there's
partly
an alien
alien
queen that has a womb rather than egg laying, and I think it's supposed to be like a prince. I think is the term,
but so that was a really divisive thing in Alien Resurrection. Like I personally always thought that it kind of in a really bizarre way worked, but it really treaded that line where it was almost funny. Like it's because of the alien design, because it kind of has almost like a baby's face.
Yeah, but it's that, and it's very much like that in its behavior as well.
But I think that worked actually better than what they did in Alien Romulus. Alien Romulus, like the hybrid is, maybe you could say more frightening, but it's more it's just kind of more brutal. I think it's but the hybrid from Alien Resurrection, I think, had a bit more kind of originality to its design.
Yeah, I think. So let's scale back. So we have this. So they come up to the station. The station's called. It's split in half, and it comes back from the tale of Romulus and Remus. So it's essentially two parts of the station, that come together to build one station overall. That's not really played into, which is weird considering they make a point of setting that up.
You've got to think that, so you've got to think that that was something that was it played out more in earlier drafts. But the only thing I will say is the film ends with a hybrid, and Romulus and Rebus were Rebus.
Rebus. So it's based in Edinburgh, yeah.
Romulus and Rebus. Sorry, there's not water in this.
Oh.
Romulus and Remus were raised by wolves.
Yeah.
So there's
and that iconography is in it.
Some of the and so when you think of the hybrid at the end, it's kind of part beast, part human. I think that's supposed to be like a kind of through line from that.
And there is that rat. They do cut back to remember the rat later on that's kind of turned into something, but
you're totally right. It's like they make a point of showing you that the station is cut in half. It's got two halves to it, or it did have two halves to it.
Yeah.
One was Romulus, one's
Remus. Not Rebus.
And it is one of those things. I think, you're right. It's like absolutely like that was going to pay off in some way, but just you get weird things like that in films where there's been like numerous drafts of scripts and maybe even numerous writers trying things, and sometimes like just odd things get left in.
I think that's one of the strange things I have about it as well. All of them at the end where they have the kind of hybrid thing, which again though is also kind of like recycled because it's like a kind of weird mix of the engineers and then the kind of alien prince thing from Resurrection. But what I thought was strange is you have this station, and they're kind of re-engineering it based on that chrysalis they found with the alien inside it, and you know it's definitely the alien because it has Ripley's harpoon in it.
Yeah.
But what I found was a bit of a missed opportunity is they had the facehuggers and they had are they drones or warriors or whatever they're called? I know that there's a distinction between the aliens and Alien, like the one in Alien is a more kind of standalone type. There is a different classification. I don't happen to fully know.
Yeah, there's like what the ones in Aliens I think were called like warrior drones or something like that. Because they added the kind of, I don't want to call them spines, but the protrusions in the alien's back and all that was added in for aliens. And some of it, and the difference, the change on the kind of dome of the alien.
What I thought was
well.
strange is that they just brought back those ones. And again, there's obviously a lot of callbacks in this, so they were trading very heavily on nostalgia. But I thought it was quite strange that they didn't take this as an opportunity to try and do something new. to try and be like, oh, we'll create a new creature or something, more stuff. So they get to the station, and all of a sudden it all kicks off because this station's like packed full of all these weird fucking hybrids that have got out. Then it would have been something different, brought something new to it.
I know that. I'm sure that when Alien 3 went through its numerous different drafts, that there was talk about. I mean, it kind of seems lame, really, but that there would be like a kind of like king alien type thing. There would be like there would be like another creature that is basically the creature that inseminates the queen. And so that was something I think that they toyed around with. Like, could there be something else? But the problem you have is like, what can you really do with the life cycle? Because eventually it's like, right, okay, well, eventually, like I remember, like, I love the Tremors series, even though Tremors is like this total B movie schlock fest in a lot of ways. I especially love the first film, but as you go through that series of movies, they just add attributes to the graboids. I think that is what they call them, the creatures in Tremors. And it's like, first of all, it's like, okay, there's another part of the life cycle where there's things that jump out on, that can walk around on the ground, and then I think later on there's ones that can like develop like wings and fly and stuff like that, and like. And I saw stuff like that.
Because you've got to
collect the
vary
Dark
things
Horse
up
comics
to keep surprising the audience, bringing stuff back. Because if you
Yeah,
keep recycling,
but you don't necessarily have to do it with the life cycle. I mean, obviously, you could just do it in other ways. And I think there was an attempt to do that with the Andy character, who was this like android.
He wasn't an alien.
Yeah, but I think they tried to mix things up there, where he ends up getting upgraded with the android Rooks. Mini DV, mini disc,
tiny disc, which was weird though, because even without that disc, he seemed to operate on exactly the same level.
Yeah, again, that's just a plot hole. Doesn't really make sense. But I think they were trying to do something there, and I think the actor did well playing that.
He was
role.
good. I would say he's probably the strongest element of the film.
Switching between the two versions of that character, but I think it would have maybe worked. That maybe would have worked better if it wasn't a case of like, oh, we just need to take that disc out of his neck, and then he'll go back to being the slow Andy.
Yeah.
I think if it was more like almost like a kind of Gollum and Smeagol kind of
like a
dynamic,
conflict.
where there was like almost like two competing personalities or drives inside of him, that would have been interesting. And I mean, you could even have done like an inversion of what happened with Bishop in Aliens, which was that Ripley has an inbuilt fear of androids after what happened with Ash in Alien, and she's basically she's prejudiced towards Bishop. And then Bishop, at one point, you think Bishop's done the dirty and gone away with the shuttlecraft.
He comes back.
He comes back. It was just because, the platform was unstable. So he comes good in the end. You could have done an inversion of that where Andy saves them all, and you think this is him good, and then at the end have it be that no, he's just actually done this for the company.
Just flies them into the rocks.
Not the company, as in just having people around, but Weyland-Yutani. But the thing about the movie is it's well made. It's a well made film, and there's a lot of people that have worked in that movie that clearly know what they're doing. But the callbacks were awful. Really took me out of the movie. And even the point where
they're just not organic in any way.
No, get away from her, you bitch.
Yeah.
It's that makes no sense at all. Because there's a point of that, like in Aliens, when Ripley says that, it's two matriarchs.
Yeah.
Going toe to toe.
Yeah.
That's why she says that. But it makes no sense. I do not understand why they put that in. And for
weirdly
me,
kind of cheapens that. I mean, obviously, Aliens
yeah.
is not going to be touched by this, but it does, like...
Even the sign-off at the end, like, where this last survivor of the Nostromo, last survivor of the Romulus, like, no. Like, why would that character do exactly what Ripley did? Ripley is a seasoned, or I mean, maybe in Alien she was a little bit of a rookie to some degree, but she's got like a leadership rank.
She's already a lieutenant, but is she a lieutenant by the point of Alien? She is in Aliens,
something like that. But she has a reason to maybe sign off the way she does at the end of Alien, because that would maybe be procedure.
Yeah,
last survivor of the Nostromo signing off.
Yeah,
there's no reason for the other character to. And the other
who's she signing
more
off
I think
to?
about again.
Who's she signing off?
Yeah, exactly.
Because she's defecting from Weyland Yutani to the whole other.
Who's she leaving the message? And
it's us, Michael. She's leaving the message for us.
The other thing, do you know, the more I think about it, it's annoying me again. It's annoying me now. The film's annoying me more now. Like, see when at the end of it, she puts Andy in the cryo chamber, and she holds his the little disc, and she says, "I will fix you." It's like, but it's like, well, there you go, audience. We've got the happy ending. She's letting you know that he's going to be fixed. He's going to be fine. There's like no need to tell anybody that. It's like, just like, have him in the cryo chamber. It's like, okay, he's survived. He's survived. Just like and all of that sort of stuff.
Did she put him in? Did she freeze him?
I think so.
Why did she? No, are you sure? Why would you freeze a ship?
I think so. I think she does.
Because normally they leave them kicking about to keep an eye on the ship.
I know that, but he was like,
he's running out of milk. Oh, we're getting milk.
This is I know. This is 5%.
I need some whole fat.
But yeah, like that. But anyway, let's get to the most glaring thing. The thing that I said at the start. You talk about that, Calum. The thing I laughed so hard.
I've done some reading into this since, and unfortunately, they do bring a character back. Part of me thought in some way it was going to be Ripley, but even though she was in like our pod at this point coming back, but I am so glad that there isn't some like shitty deep fake of like Sigourney Weaver in it.
Yeah.
But there isn't. Unfortunately, they brought back Ian Holm, peace be upon him. And basically they did it it's horrible. It's such a bad effect. And weirdly, it's an animatronic. That's what I found out recently. Now, what I found out is they brought back, it's an original effects team from the 70s that did it.
It's the guys that did all the effects on like Alien Resurrection.
It's the guys that did the effects for Blake 7.
Right, but is it not? Is it not
on a budget of £15?
Is it not? But is it not? Is it not like the guy that actually like dressed up as the xenomorph, like for like Alien 3?
No. If you go into it, it's a
Is it not his cat? Is it not his company?
It's a respected company. It's not ILM, but it is a company that does have pedigree doing it, and they built this animatronic, but you can tell they fucked about with it, and they did admit that they did CGI on top of it in post, but the CGI
the lips and all that, they said
the lips and the eyes and stuff like that bit is incredibly unconvincing, and the pair of us were just laughing the whole time. And it's weird because there's two elements to it. They got the widow, Sophia something, Ian Holmes' widow. She wrote, she signed off on it, but most importantly, Ridley Scott signed off on it. So it wouldn't have mattered what she said if they've got.
Ian would have loved this. That's what they said. Ian would have loved this. I read an article.
He said that apparently he'd been jaded and.
Yeah, he'd have loved to have been involved in this. Can I just say though, the thing that made me laugh the most, and this is what I said to Calum in the cinema, was that throughout the movie when it kept cutting to. So the character's not actually Ash, and that doesn't make sense either.
Yeah.
But his name's Rook, right? He's another android of the same
looks
of the same
identical,
model.
same science officer uniform and everything.
Makes no sense because in Alien, then they would have known he was a fucking android.
Because he was a
The
model.
whole point was
they
they didn't know. But the thing that made me laugh was the whole time I couldn't get out of my head that it looked like they put Ian Holmes' face on the body of like a child. And there was something about it that was just not quite right. And I love physical effects. Like, I'm all for, like, do animatronics. But, because the one for Bishop in Alien 3 is really good. But, and to be fair, that's shot in, like, low light and shadow, and half his face is torn off. And that's what some people have said.
And they should have done that more with this. It was too intact.
They could have done that, but, like, I felt that some of there was moments where they were seeing Rook's face on like a video monitor, and it was and the signal was all degrading, and I've got a funny feeling that was like reshoots. That was like they filmed stuff. They were like, this doesn't look good enough. Like, let's just mess it up on a TV screen, and we'll get away with it.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, it was. There was no need for it. It could have just been an actor. It could have been an actor playing another android. Like, there was no need for it to be Ian Holm. Oh.
But then also
terrible.
As well, I mean, I don't know. It's tough. It's tough to get an idea of timeline because the movie opens with them going to recover the alien from the wreckage, so you don't really know how long that is after the Nostromo exploded. In terms of, because you don't really get a true idea of like how. I mean, obviously they don't have like particularly fast travel in Alien because they've all got to go into cryo sleep to travel to places. So it's hard to know how long that's been, but so I don't know. I think that's the big issue for me. It's like, and the thing is, he's not even just like a minor element. As soon as Rook is introduced to the film, he is extremely present for the rest of the film.
Well, that's the thing. I thought, because I knew, I had read in a review it said there was like someone was resurrected a character was brought back, and I was like, well, I thought it's got to be Ash, or I thought maybe it would be like Bishop, because they've done that where there's been other androids that look like Bishop.
Well, in Alien, that's the weird thing, isn't it? Because in Alien 3, you think it's another Bishop android, but then he gets hit over the head with a wrench and it's just normal blood. It's never really explained, is it?
But then there's debate about that because the way his ear is, it's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
That some people think that that's because no, actually is some sort of android. But anyway.
But he does make
double fake. Yeah. It could just have been another actor. It didn't, and I was very surprised, like you say, that I thought, well, it's just going to be a scene, and then we can move on. And it's like, nope. He basically became the villain of the movie.
Yeah.
Again. But
and we just had 2 films of, well, I suppose 1.5 of functionally, if you
Fassbender being the villain.
Yeah. Like villainous androids in it, because I think that was the big thing. It's the kind of James Cameron kind of came in and did Alien with the kind of Terminator 1, Terminator 2 switch, where it's like the first film established like he's the thing, and then all of a sudden he's a hero. You go into thing, and the whole time you're watching Aliens, especially when he's dissecting it and stuff, and he's saying, "Oh, it's fascinating stuff." You're waiting for Bishop to kind of fuck her over.
Mental.
And the thing is, it's like there's no need for him to do that because Burke's already in it and he's already out there fucking people up. So for Bishop to do that again would have just ruined the movie. That's the kind of thing they would do in Alien Romulus. But so that's the thing come in. So, but if you were that fascinated with doing it, you could have quite easily you could have done away with Rook and had Mother as a central character again had because they made a point of showing Mother again and having Mother being the central thing, control the station. But I think they made a mistake, and as you say, the whole kind of haunted house thing, the station should have been more of a character, and the station should have been inhabited with new, more interesting things that we haven't seen before to go in, and that would have been much more interesting than the way it played out.
I mean, I quite like an Alien Resurrection. That it's funny to me, and I think it's just a throwaway
Well, that's
gag.
Josh
Really,
Whedon for you, isn't it?
That the computer on the ship in Alien Resurrection is called Father, which always made me laugh. But yeah, like so, I was looking forward to this movie because I like the director. I knew he was really good at visceral horror, and there's plenty of visceral horror in this movie. It's there, and I think that's the reason that people like it, is because it is still in some ways one of the better Alien movies. Like, unfortunately, because there are other Alien movies that have so many, like, even more glaring problems. But really, like, there's Alien and Aliens. I think Alien 3, there's a masterpiece in there somewhere. Like, it's there's
the
something.
assembly cut's a lot better than any of the theatrical stuff for sure.
Yeah. But there's some amazing stuff in Alien 3. It's just that Alien 3 would have worked better as a standalone movie that wasn't actually an Alien franchise. And I think it would have been accepted a lot better. It's just that Alien 3, unfortunately, undid all the good work that James Cameron had done in Aliens, and that's why James Cameron was like raging about it. But Alien Romulus is like, you get the feeling that the stuff that we're talking about, the stuff that we don't like, I get the feeling that wasn't the director's fault. That's the feeling that I get. I don't know if that's true.
It does say Ridley Scott gave him notes. And we know from previous experience that he's been involved in so many things now. Ridley Scott likes to fucking stir the porridge, right? There's no other way about it. And especially if it's something that at one point he was involved in, he will fucking get in and he will, he will make his presence known. Unfortunately, normally to the detriment of the project.
Ridley Scott's done some amazing things, but for some reason he's kind of, from Prometheus onward, and he did talk for years, decades. He did say, I'd quite like to do a movie set before Alien, but the difference is that the original idea before Prometheus it wasn't this grand cosmic tale.
Because, sorry, just to interject quickly, weren't they trying to bring... He was going to come back and do Alien 3, wasn't he? And then there was some scheduling, or it didn't line up. They didn't choose to go with him. I think that's what the...
I know that, like, there was like Vincent Ward, and then there was a Dutch director, what's his name? I can't remember now, but when they were going to do a kind of Planet of the Aliens type story, and in the comics there's a series of comics in the Dark Horse comic versions of Alien, and there's one story called Genocide that ran for a while, and that there's stuff on like an alien planet and that, I'm sure, which is really good. I mean, it's been a long time since I read it, but oh God, what's that director's name I'm thinking of? Harkin. It'll come back to me anyway. So, like, yeah, there was a number of people involved in trying to get Alien 3 to the big screen, but Ridley Scott originally wanted to do, like, he had this idea that was, well, the company knew the ship was there, so he believed that there had been a ship before that had encountered it, just before the Nostromo turned up. And so he originally said, like, oh, it would be interesting to do the story of, like, what happened with that original ship. that encountered and then got a message off to the company to let them know that they had discovered an alien life form.
Because the SOS becomes a warning.
Yeah, and then it became like this big, we wanted to do a cosmic story about genetic engineers and all that. And that's the problem with going back and all that. I know we're talking about Alien Romulus, but I felt the same with the Star Wars prequels. It was more mysterious to not see Anakin's turn to the dark side, to see how Darth Vader became a reality like that. That was more exciting to have your imagination fill those blanks in. And I think with the alien creature and the space jockey especially, I mean, see when Prometheus, when they showed the space jockey was basically a suit that just a big guy was wearing, you're just like, no.
But then it's also clearly a set of ribs, and then you watch Alien and there's a hole in the ribs.
Yeah. Doesn't make sense, but anyway, so
I think the reason we keep rolling back to the other films is because there's so much of the other films in Romulus.
No, it's true. I mean, it's true. That's what I'm saying. It's like it strangely felt like they were trying to make a movie that hits some of the beats in each of those first four films. I was really surprised that. I mean, even I was really surprised.
Like a weird attempt at like a greatest hits type thing.
But even the fact that loads of the crew were like Cockneys.
Yeah.
Like that was like, to me, that was like a direct line to Alien 3.
Yeah.
That was one of the
complaints. Which is quite funny because I've seen a few people, including like Red Letter Media and stuff like that, tuning into the fact that like there's a lot of people that are struggling to understand the who's in the water.
Yeah.
Apples and pears.
Yeah, like it's. I think Alien Romulus has some good stuff in it. But
the end.
There's so much eye rolling when you watch it that I just couldn't forgive it for that. Like I could not forgive it. I think if that stuff hadn't been in it, I think if the forced lines from other movies and all the stuff with kind of bringing Ash back, if none of that had been in it, I'd have came out of that movie going, but then the whole thing with so having to switch the gravity off, that's good.
Yeah.
But
the weird thing where it was like, for some reason, there was a purge in the system. That's the way the system worked. So every so often it kicked in the generators and was mucking about. And it was obviously like a kind of device to make it difficult for them. But it also kind of functionally, in a way that a lot of things in this film didn't kind of make any sense. But they have that bit later on where they have this kind of extended scene where all the drones are running towards her and she disables the gravity and they're all floating about and she shoots them. And then basically there's all this acid blood floating about, and then all of a sudden like they reactivate like the gravity later on, but you're like, this is still going to float about. Like it's all still got momentum, so it's still going to float. It's in 0G, but it's still going to float into shit and just
exactly.
It's just not going to go down as much, but
no, exactly. Like that. They say that basically because they're on the kind of bottom floor of the ship or the station, that if the alien blood touches the floor,
you'll just have a breach.
Then it will eat. Yeah, and they'll all die. They'll all get sucked out into space.
Correction, blown out. I just Star Trek to you. That's got to be a first.
You just Bill-Nye'd me right out of it. But yeah, like you said, that they switch the gravity off so that she can then kill the aliens. So that because she's like, well, if there's no gravity, the blood won't fall to the ground and eat through the hull. But it's like, no, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
Like a liquid will have momentum, it'll move around. There's a randomness to the air currents that will be happening, and eventually it'll bump into things, and some of it will bump into the floor.
Yeah, but acid becomes alkaline in zero gravity.
Calum. For a second there, you almost had me.
Bit of Alien Romulus science there for you.
So, like, there was just another thing that was like, it was unnecessary though, because it was like, right, just remove like that aspect of it. Like, have her disable the gravity because she thinks this is my only shot.
Yeah.
Like they're going to all kill me, but I can switch the gravity off and maybe they'll float around and I can shoot them. Like, don't mention the you know, like, again, it's just people fall in love with an idea in a script, and then even if it doesn't make sense, they still try to like pigeonhole it in there, and it doesn't work. The thing is, it's like we'll probably get a lot of downvotes on this video from some people because the movie's been really well received by like I looked at
Ridley Scott.
I looked at the
we can do killers.
Like, I don't know what it is right now, but the other day in Rotten Tomatoes, like the audience score and the critic score is both really, really high. And I think people have been hoodwinked. It's like
the bar's fucking low these days though.
It's Man of Steel all over again, Calum. It's like, yeah, it's like it's well made. There's good actors, there's great production value, but some of the writing decisions like are baffling, and therefore it doesn't work because of that.
Is this going to start being that Superman's got to be a hopeful character again? He can't be pining and breaking people's necks.
No, I'll get to that in another video. But my point is that like you can have movies where it's like, okay, there can be good things in them, and there are good things in this film, but when there's so many glaring errors and mistakes with the lore, with things that just don't logically make you're supposed to do a logic run through of your script. You're like literally supposed to go through and take it apart and say, right, what like doesn't make sense here. Like that's part of the writing process. You're supposed to do that so that you can't always catch everything. There will be plot holes, but some of these are so glaring that they just totally took me out.
I think that's a common theme though with a lot of stuff these days, and the quality of writing's quite bad. And I sometimes wonder if a lot of the time the reason that actually goes ahead and they just carry on with it is actually because of the fact that like they then have to think up another solution to get out of it, and they're almost just kind of like, well, fuck it, it's fine.
Well, that's it. It's like, well, we can't just scrap this scene, or I don't want to have to rewrite because I've laid the seed of this earlier in the script, and now here's the payoff. Now you're telling me the payoff doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
it's like unfortunately, that's what happens. I mean, I think the idea of having someone fighting xenomorphs in zero gravity is a cool one. It's certainly for me, it's like there's a lot of this movie, especially the hybrid, when I'm like, Alvarez must be like a Dead Space fan. And the Zero G stuff, I'm like, it's been a long time since I've played Dead Space, but my memory is that at least in some of the games, I played the first two and I played Extraction as well. There's like Zero G stuff in that.
It could be Ridley Scott.
I don't think he knows what a computer is.
I mean, I can see him stomping away on the heads of xenomorphs all day.
Put the cigars out in their face. Yeah.
Goodbye, Tony.
The one thing I will say about this is it looks almost certain that we're going to get. I know there's an Alien TV series coming out, but it looks like certain that we'll be getting more Alien movies because I think it's been quite successful.
Yeah, big time. And I think,
I'm up for more Alien movies, but just like. Make them good.
Well, I think this was the first one I saw that had, what was it, 20th Century Studios at the start of it.
That's right. I clocked that as well.
Rather than, because I mean that's obviously a very nostalgic introduction for people.
Yeah.
So many iconic films. And now obviously it's been, as George Lucas put it, sold to the white slavers. But I think the problem is though with that sequence as well, the next sequence of it doesn't make any sense as well, because after that they go into a bit where they're having to climb up a lift shaft and they're still using the zero G element, and she ends up falling all the way down, and an alien catches her.
That's right.
And it doesn't do anything. It's just kind of holding her, being like, oh, "You're all right, you're right."
When you know that the way the alien would catch her is impale her, and it's on its tail.
Yeah, or not hang about to be fucking long enough for Andy to be dropping down and reading from the alien's script.
Yeah, it's just bonkers. Some of the decisions were bonkers. I think if you strip that stuff away, like you genuinely would have like a really decent, strong alien movie.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that stuff's it's so laughable. Even if you just take Rook out of it, it would be so much better.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, I couldn't stop laughing. I was shaking. My shoulders were shaking because he just looked wrong. He just looked like they'd put Ian Holmes' face on a small boy's body.
Yeah. Well, or a lot of the time it just looked like the ventriloquist dummy from Magic.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looked like.
But I think for me it was a real missed opportunity because they had this station, especially the two parts, and the two. I mean, do you know what? It's kind of, to me, the whole thing of like, I think of like Metroid, right?
Yeah.
And if you went to, there's like Metroid Fusion, for example, takes place on the space station, and there's all kinds of different biomes and stuff that's going on there. They could have done so many. I mean, I know it wasn't a super high budget for this film, but they could have had all these different. Think about it, all these different biomes with different aliens, and we know that the alien adapts to its environment and how it comes in. So you could have had all different types of stuff there, and the whole reason the place went to shit is because of it. It might have gone a bit System Shock, maybe, if you had a thing where like Muller was the AI that was behind it, and it would have been more interesting to do that than doing another synth. But if you had something where it was still managing stuff going and it was still doing experiments, even though all the crew was killed off, that that could have been interesting. But instead, what we had is it went in, we had the kind of the same time we go in, we get the capsule, the zero G stuff. Oh, it's not the zero G stuff, sorry, the cryo stuff. And then it was like, oh, we don't quite have all the stuff we need for that. We need to go deeper into the station. At which point they do the stuff with the facehugger, but the facehugger almost felt a bit redundant. The only reason they put the facehugger in is so that immediately she could go out and fuck up the spaceship they were in, which she didn't really do anyway, and remove some characters from the equation. And then basically, after that, it was just beat by beat. All those aliens that were running about were already existing on the station, including tons of like facehuggers and stuff like that. But it just seemed so strange to go back, have this research station, and then just to hit some notes, and as we've said previously, hit some notes bang on that we've already had. It was just weird, unless they were trying to play it safe, But
yeah, I also felt that. I mean, some of the facehugger stuff was decent to me, but like
all that stuff was good, like the effects and stuff with all that.
Yeah, but the problem I had with the facehugger stuff was, I don't know if you felt this way, but it felt like they were like, it was way too easy for them to like overpower a facehugger. Like,
well, remember the bit when it's actually got the tube in his mouth, and he manages to get it out.
Aye, like, to me, it's like.
Because think about, like, if you think about like all the times we've seen like the facehugger, it's an instantaneous thing. It waits for its moment, it strikes, and it catches people off guard, and you don't have time to be like, oh, I'll get this bit of thing. I know they can kind of see it coming, and it goes out, and maybe Kane doesn't quite have that. But he's wearing a fucking space helmet.
They should have established that he was a bodybuilder.
Yeah. Yeah.
and then like
it's Courtney Gale, mate.
This is why no one will let me direct an Alien movie.
I know.
Make them all bodybuilders.
But I mean, Ridley Scott, what we talking, 86 now? But he just like 86, mate.
He's looking great. I mean,
he is,
I think he's been taking some of that Prometheus liquid.
Yeah, but people have paid the price for him to look that good, and I'm not going to get into it. But there's a few skeletons in old Ridder's claws.
You think he's one of those Hollywood vampires?
What, Edichrome or whatever it's called? No, that's a type of film stock, I think. Whatever they take out of children. But I don't know. At this point, I mean, what was the last good film he made? Black Hawk Down? Last great film, anyways.
I don't know. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of the movies that he's made.
Because he had a streak. I mean, I'm a huge fan of like the Duelist. I think the Duelist is brilliant. You know, like Duelist, Alien, Blade Runner. You know, that time period, he was really
even Legend.
Yeah,
Legend has got some great stuff in it.
G.I. Jane. But I mean, overall, I mean, some of my favourite films are Ridley Scott films. There's no two way about it. I'm a huge fan of Gladiator and everything. I'm not optimistic about Gladiator 2, I'll say that much, but
no. Watch this space, it'll end up brilliant. There'll be a xenomorph in
it. Yeah, if it's good, it's liquid. We've used this liquid to resurrect Maximus.
That'd be amazing if the gates open in the middle of like the Colosseum and it's just darkness, and then you just suddenly see
fat Russell Crowe riding a xenomorph.
Just suddenly
Are you not entertained?
It's really unnerved me recently because Chris sent me a clip from the Joe Rogan podcast because Russell Crowe was on it the other day, and he's like, "Who does he look like?" And I was watching it, and I was just like, "Oh my god, he looks like my dad." Even the same mannerisms, like it was quite creepy actually. How much he looks like my dad. I don't know what that's got to do with.
But fair dude, and he's got an interesting look about him in the moment with the beard and everything.
Yeah, that's my Russell Crowe story.
And on a side note as well, at the moment, probably at the time this comes out, it'll have just been off the back of Guillermo del Toro being in Scotland filming Mary Shelley film. Yeah, and he's currently, or he was yesterday, live tweeting about being in a haunted room.
You sent me that.
It was good value.
Investigated. Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, speaking of haunted houses, to get back to Romulus, I just feel it started off, I was hopeful for it, and then very quickly it fell away. As soon as I saw the torso of Ash lying on the tabletop,
we both looked at each other because you saw his silhouette. And you just knew right away it was
same short, and I know he's science officer. Maybe it's a regulated uniform, fine, but it was too close.
But do you know what? It's still not a film that. See, when people tell me that they really enjoyed it, it's like it's not a film that. I'm not completely baffled. I understand why some people would enjoy it. They would be able to just look past all that stuff, or maybe they'd even enjoy that stuff, and just enjoy the kind of visceral alien movie that is there in it. But for me, the callbacks and the use of Ian Holmes just kind of took me so far out of the movie. I couldn't enjoy it to the same level.
I think that is what's a shame, because I understand why a lot of people like it, and I do think it starts off interesting, but to me it just goes like Pete Tong way too quickly. And there's too many things for me that are
I've heard that since 1999.
I'm bringing it back. So's Alien Romulus. But for me, it's like there's too many fucking things to try and apologise for, you know. So there's a couple other things as well. It's only very subtly put in it, but it's pretty much heavily implied that one of the young lads is the one that knocked that lassie up. But they don't really do anything. They don't do anything with it, right? But then at the end, there's like there's a very quick kind of shot where it kind of shows like the hybrid thing going into almost kind of like suckle on its mother. Yeah. But it's very quickly, and it kind of like doesn't really dwell on it. But it kind of I feel like there's a whole thing where like that shouldn't have happened right at the very end, and they could have done some creepy stuff with that. You know, like they could have had her getting taken away, and them trying to rescue her, kind of in an Aliens in the Hive type thing. But it just felt.
Well, that would have been good. I mean, but then had we watched it where the woman is then stolen by its child, would we then have went, they're just doing the Ripley goes in to the Hive thing again?
It's kind of a twist on that, at least, rather than doing it beat for beat.
It's definitely interesting.
But I don't know. I just feel that it had an opportunity to do something different, but maybe there was a lot of pressure, and obviously, like, it does say that after they did the initial screening, Ridley Scott gave notes, and you know for a fact that he's put his own shit into it, right? Yeah, I know. Into the original script, just burning it, putting it into a trash bin. I'll be taking that.
Needs more albinos.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what. Because that's what Ridley likes.
Wearing a monogrammed set of cufflinks that say T Scott. But the problem is, for me, like,
if the hybrid had Tony Scott's face, Calum would have been.
Now that would have got me. That would have got me. I'd have gone and seen it again.
Classic.
The ghost at the feast. But for me, I wonder if, because let's be honest, we weren't in a good state post Covenant, right? Ridley Scott wasn't getting any more films. They had to flip the switch. Between that, we've also had Alien Isolation, which was a return to the world of it, very well received.
It was great.
And that introduced a really good thing, a really cool thing where they had the cheaper synths in it. With the kind of rubbery skin. They were creepy, and it was well implemented. And they've brought them back only in games, but not in this. And that wasn't Whalen Yutani that did them. That was like a side company. I think that was meant to be like the cheaper alternatives, but they were creepy. They kind of never really channeled that in. But I think perhaps maybe we're looking at a situation where what's happened is they've played it safe because they want to start making a bunch of new films again, and they were like, we can't keep making new films off the back of Covenant. We've got to go back to what people liked, and we'll put in a bunch of elements from the films that they liked. And the thing is, they've made good money from that. So what Alien Romulus has really told them is more of that.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's been a little bit of the kind of Force Awakens thing where they've tried to just basically recapture what went before, and then will they just do the same thing where the next one will just be more of the same? Probably, with diminishing returns. But anyway, so I would say to people like I would still say, like, watch it, make up your own mind. I can understand why some people like it. I think I'll probably watch it again, to be honest, because I love Alien movies. But that's just a lot of the decisions in it kind of took me out of the movie.
I find myself watching clips, quite often, of like Alien and Aliens, and the beauty of that is, like, even in isolation, the clips are still brilliant. But you watch the clips,
and it just watch the whole thing, man.
And you watch the clips, and you just like, fuck, that was so good. Do you know a little bit of trivia for you? Did you know? See the bit where, is it? Oh God, no, Brett's character gets killed in this machinery room with the chains and everything.
Yeah.
So there's like a weird kind of like rusted like gold aesthetic. Apparently that's because every time before the camera rolled, big old ridders used to run in with a can of gold spray and was constantly spraying everything down. And if you go back and you look at it, it is definitely wet gold paint, and it creates this really interesting kind of rusted industrial look to it. And the thing is, there was a time where, to use modern parlance, the guy was cooking. Right, but early Ridley Scott, can't get enough of it. But
then he just started like spraying people with gold paint.
He should be in the fucking Costa del Sol on a sun lounger eating egg and chips with the rest of his pals. But he just keeps coming back, and I don't think he can justify it anymore.
Well, I think on that note, Calum, we will go off now into our own dark abyss and starry night and hope that someone can make a great Alien movie again.
I think, to be honest, I watched this and I'm hopeful. I see a thing, but they need to do something different. They just keep retreading the same things. I think one of the only things left to do is have some kind of like big war because no one's really stuck it to Weyland-Yutani properly yet. Maybe that's the only thing that's left to do.
Yeah. Bring them down. Bring the man down.
Exactly. Bring Ian home back again.
I'm going to go back to my cup of what was water, honestly.
I've drunk all this, so I might have something else. Fantastic. Back to the hand sanitizer for me. Hey!
And if you've made it to the end of this, well done, everybody.
Yeah, and also apologise to everyone that we've been away for like 8 months or whatever it's been.
I know. But we'll get back to it. This is part of the journey. We'll get back
Ghastly
to it.
Tales subscribers essentially neglected children, all of them.
I know. They have to put a chrysalis around them. They have to build a cocoon around them until it comes out. No, I really appreciate people sticking with us, and we'll see you all in the next video.
Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.